talk online pricing and what, like I talked to you before, we had done that. We did a homeowner survey with Clear Seas Research, which is the research brand BNP Media. And we found that 92% of homeowners say seeing prices online are important or very important. And then only 20% of contractors are doing it. So it didn't really match up with us. So it was interesting to get you on the call here and ask you why you think that is.
Yeah. Did you say 92%?
92% either important or very important.
I can't, I mean, that is fully supportive of our thesis over here and fully supportive of how every one of us as consumers likes to shop. There's this feeling like that information is gated when you're shopping for any sort of home service, let alone HVAC. And because it feels like it's gated, what do consumers do? They do the research on their own. We live in a time where things don't have to be gated anymore. And so the problem is the homeowner then goes online to search. And the moment that you search for anything related to pricing around HVAC, you find direct sellers, you find internet resellers, you find lead companies like Home Advisor, Angie's List, or you find retailers. Most people don't know this. Most contractors know that companies like Home Depot and Lowe's and Costco, they all have, contractor programs, but they also sell wholesale equipment direct to consumer. And why is that? That's because their job is to satisfy the demand for the products in the market. And from a macro level, if they're looking around and they're going, there's 2 million people in these 5 counties in Texas. And when they go online to find out how much an air conditioner costs, we have the opportunity to capture all of that traffic, get X% of those customers. So anyhow, yeah, I'm passionate about it. That the data does not surprise me, and it shouldn't surprise anyone listening to this either.
So it seems simple that contractors should be doing this. I guess why are they not doing it? Just so it's the way we've always done it, or a little scared that you're going to scare people off when they see the price on the website and move on to something else?
It's a mixture of both. One of which is what you said right out of the gate there, and that's that it's the way we've always done it. The other part, if there's one objection or one fear or one misconception that is baked into the bones of the industry, it's that you absolutely, under no circumstance, can reveal a price to a consumer before you've had the opportunity to go into the home and build trust and rapport and build your value and tell your company story and all those sort of things. And there was a time that was really true. But now you have the opportunity to do all of those things before you ever get invited into the customer's home. Like, a customer is not inviting you out to their home to find out if you're a good company. They've done that research already. Customer's not inviting you out to find out if you can bring value. They've already read your reviews. They've already looked at the brand. They've looked at the website. They've looked at your social assets, right? They're getting a sense for how you do business and if you align with the type of company they want to work with. So this idea that you have to do all of that, in the home at the kitchen table, we're not saying you go away from that. We still think that's super, super important. But let pricing be this objective thing that lives outside of that interaction between a salesperson and a homeowner, and let them customize it, which is what they're going to do anyway, right? A great company is going to do a load calculation, and they're going to listen to their customers' feedback, and they're going to say, we have 45 different systems on our website that are all different prices. You actually need the 46th system. You need the system that does this for your son's bedroom or whatever that might be. So that's my take on it.
Yeah, that's my question, because obviously you can get a lot of information online, how many square footage, the house is, if it's, 2 stories or a ranch. But there are some things like a contractor would say, well, I have to go in there and see what kind of insulation there is, because I have no idea when we talk about load calculations. I'm assuming we're just giving them ballpark figures on the number. Or you say, hey, for this tonnage, you do need this system, but you don't quite know what the tonnage is. How does that all play out?
I think it depends. I mean, just as a disclaimer, me and my team at Contractor Commerce, we are firm believers in home visit. We are firm believers in the pre-job survey, whatever you want to call it. We don't believe that, even though it happens where a system can be fully configured and priced to the penny and sold on someone's website, and that does happen today. We believe in that interaction, at least in the phase of the industry now. I think that there's only so many variables that you can account for anyway, as it relates to sizing a job. And I think that 80% of your jobs are pretty close to what they would be in the book. And, there's going to be variables you discover with the customer as you get out to the home. But that's part of part of the process.
Like this is a way for a contractor to differentiate themselves. If like the survey said, and what sounds like what your research says as well, if only 20% are doing that, it seems like it'd really give you a leg up in your market.
Yeah, and I would even I can't wait to see the results of the survey. We're on pins and needles over here waiting for it. So far, it's very positive. But I'm surprised that 20% shows some sort of pricing online. I think that would include people who might show pricing on some sort of services like tune-ups and things like that. I would venture to guess it's a very, very, very small single-digit percentage of contractors who put any sort of equipment pricing online. So what I would recommend is like be first, be the company that goes to market saying, you know, we support the modern, well, you wouldn't say it in a marketing sense, like you wouldn't say we support the modern consumer buying journey, but you might say, you know, instant quote online anytime, the only contractor in Charleston, South Carolina that has upfront pricing on their website, you know, click, call, visit, whatever, just make it like they're shopping for a car. And that brings me to another point, back to the question you asked before this. You know, the car industry is such a great example to look at. Now, I understand that buying a car and buying a home comfort system or, you know, a water heater, it's all different. But in many ways, it's a large major purchase that a consumer is going to make a couple times in their lifetime. So there are a lot of similarities. But a consumer knows, like, first of all, it would be absurd to imagine a scenario where a consumer who wants to buy, I always use an F-150 as an example, a consumer who wants to buy an F-150 can't get close to an approximate price online. Like they're going to size up all the features, they're going to size up all the trim packages, they're going to get a general sense. And so by the time they go into the dealership, they might not expect, nor may they pay $61,894. They're going to sit down and they're going to look at the incentives. And they're going to look at the financing. Then they're going to look at the $500, you know, cashback rebate. And they're going to look at the trade-in and all these sort of things. So the consumer knows there's going to be some give or take, right? And I'm going to try to push a little bit, and I'm going to try. That's okay. Consumers should, like, you know, be okay wanting it. It's okay when a consumer wants a great deal. That doesn't mean they're a price shopper, as someone would say. They're a shopper. Right. They're a human. Shopping is part of the human experience. If you're alive right now. So I say that to say, you know, consumers want to get a general idea. They want to know what the best case, worst case scenario might be. And then they want to come to terms with a human being, which is important, because in our lifetime, it's not going to be standard just to push two buttons and buy an air conditioner and have it drop shipped to your house and installed by, who knows, Amazon Home Services or whatever. That will happen eventually. Like everything seems to be headed that way.
Right.
But contractors have an advantage to be a part of it now.
Well, to continue with that, the car theme there, the car example, are we setting it up though at a point where, because I can't imagine going in and paying sticker price, right, or whatever price I saw there's some built-in negotiations in my mind that I feel like a sucker if I come out and I pay that. But are we setting that up for HVAC, and that it's going to be more of a negotiation at the kitchen table rather than an introduction of price and either a close or not a close?
You know, it's interesting that you mentioned that, because the short answer is yes, but look at the car industry. Look at the shifts in power that have happened over the last couple of years based on just pure supply and demand. I bought a vehicle in 2020 when I was quite literally in the driver's seat. I could name my price, I could name my rebates, I could name I could name everything. The ball was in my court. A year later, or right now, with interest rates on new vehicles being 8% and vehicle pricing being at an all-time high, like the power is back in the dealer, or you know, supply being really low when the microchip thing was happening. So, you know, the car industry is much more transparent and regulated than the HVAC industry, and it's not as an applied product. But I would say, and this is going to open up a bigger conversation, I think if the industry went toward like an MSRP from the manufacturer, it would set kind of a starting point and a band of pricing for people to work within. Now, the MSRP would have to be considerable because, you know, to cover all of the different nuances and variables. And it's interesting. Some manufacturers will put a projected price or an MSRP on their website. I think Train is one. But the volatility and the variability of HVAC pricing and the, you know, the Wild West nature of it is part of the problem that contractors, you know, will have a maintenance customer for 2 years and they'll do an installation with somebody else, right? Because they can't get a sense of what they're in for. And so when it is time to make that major purchase, whether it's under the gun because it's out or it's a planned purchase, you're looking for as many options as possible, and you don't have a sense of, is this good? Is this bad? How much should this be? Like, you have to kind of like quit hiding HVAC pricing, and your neighbors won't be so shocked that it's $15,000 to have a system put in.
Right.
As long as we keep shielding it, the only time you're going to find pricing is under the gun. So
now, when you say that the manufacturer price, are you thinking that's building in labor too? Because that's the other difference between cars and HVAC. Someone's going to be there you have to pay that person the entire day to install it as well. So I guess that's where it gets a little tricky too. Where do you see that?
Well, very tricky. And it would have to include labor. Like, there'd have to be some sort of multiplier used that would cover, most scenarios. I can absolutely hear some of my dearest contractor friends cringing at that idea. But again, like, the way that the markets work, you don't go to market with what's best for the service provider. You go to market with what's best for consumers if you want to play the long game. If the market worked for the service provider, there would be no Uber. Taxis were doing great. They were doing great. They were providing a service and getting great money. And when it shifts towards the consumer, that's when disruption happens. So I think you got to be considerate of, both sides, what it looks like to buy it, what it looks like to sell it, and find a middle ground. I can think of other industries where there were much more regulations. The freight and shipping, transportation industry went through this in the, I think, 70s. That's a completely different conversation. But there needs to be some sort of leveling of the playing field, and consumers will do it on their own.
Right. Interesting to say Uber, because I read an article recently that the Uber prices have really gone up because they've driven the taxis out of business a little bit. Plus, everyone that's the go-to. So you don't really realize you're paying more because it's a convenience. It's now a part of your life.
Yeah, and it takes me back again to the car industry back in 2010 through 2012, when it was not normal for a contractor to have pricing on their website. They might have a couple offers here and there. They might advertise some specials. They might do a Saturday morning, like, hey, here's the pricing on this inventory. The car industry was terrified. If they couldn't get shoes and feet in their doorstep to sell a car, they didn't think they were going to sell more cars. Well, guess what? They were completely wrong.
They did fine.
And they leveraged that to capture more leads. I mean, every car, automotive company now has an inside salesperson who's texting and calling. And here's the interesting parallel. And again, I don't want to go too far into cars, but I can't get away from it. Mm-hmm. If I were to go online and shop for a car today, whether I'm going to a marketplace like cars.com, or I'm going to Hendrick Automotive, shout out to great Charlotte-based company where I am. I know with 100% certainty that if I start to put in my information and I click a car and I want to learn more, I know for sure someone's going to reach out to me. And in my mind, phone's ringing now, it's probably in my mind, I'm thinking, that's friction. That's annoying. I just want to get a price. I just want to size these things up, and then I'll contact you when I'm ready. In the HVAC world, that pathway doesn't exist yet because you can't shop online. So if you're to look for a couple of companies, or I'll give you a great example for customers who use us. If someone's doing a Google search in Denver, Colorado, and they're looking for online pricing for HVAC, I would hope that they would find Premier Air, which is a great company out there who on their Google My Business says online quotes, right? So most of our customers have that on their Google My Business profile, which is super, super, differentiator, as most contractors don't have online quotes. And so, or online estimates is what it says. My hope is that the consumer would be like, well, this is convenient. Go through the process, give that contractor all their information, and then they're getting a call from one contractor, because no other contractors have that built in yet. So they have contact forms. Contact forms are a hope and a prayer. You just never know. Like, right. Someone will be in touch with you. Right. Great. So anyhow.
All right, to continue I like the car analogy too, right? Because that's something we can all get our heads around. So it's, and you did talk about when, the demand was high, it's harder than, it's, they're getting the better deal. When it's low, the consumer gets a good deal. Could that be translated to HVAC too then? And August when you're absolutely slammed, are you charging things a little bit more because the demand is there? And then if you're in a shoulder season, maybe you're lowering prices a little bit because you just want your guys to keep working, and maybe you don't need that super healthy profit percentage at that point. Is that something you advise your clients?
Well, I would say for the more sophisticated companies that know how to capture their overhead and all of that at different times of the year based on supply, based on demand, based on all those things, yes. But I think there's so much variability in this industry because of the distribution of size of companies. I mean, there's, I guess, 100,000 companies and only, so many that are over $1 million in revenue. So there's always going to be kind of a local company who will do it cheaper. And that will always be the case for eternity until there's more regulation on distribution and things like that, which is, again, another really slippery slope, particularly with the, supply shortage of talent and technicians and increased technology and all that. But that said, yeah, there could definitely be more sensibility around the variability of price. When I look at the specials and incentives that contractors do today publicly during shoulder seasons, and please forgive me, I'm not a contractor, so I can't claim if this is good or bad, but when I see some of the incentives that contractors use to, in theory, do that, they're laughable to the consumer. Free brewery, right? Free furnace with an air conditioner. That might, I guess it probably works and drives some sales, but save $5,000, like off of what? Like consumers are not, get a flat screen TV with a purchase. I saw one this week, get a Blackstone. Again, those are all like cool incentives, but the consumer just wants to know, like, sensibly, how much should this cost? No one is surprised right now that a Yukon Denali XL from GMC costs $93,000. A couple of years ago, it was like $73,000. No one's surprised. They're insulted by it. They're sad about it, but that doesn't change, right? And that's because there's transparency, right? And now everyone the majority of people who buy an HVAC system are surprised that it's not $4,500.
Yeah, it's like those the coupons you get in Valpak that says it's $2,000 off, but you have to present the coupon before they give you the
right,
the quote. I'm like, well, what are you doing? Just subtract 2,000, or adding $2,000 to whatever it would have been. But
Yep.
we did interesting in in our survey, millennials, that 92% actually goes up to 98%. So, and we all know millennials are the ones that are really starting to buy houses now. So even more of a reason for contractors to get in this. I'm assuming you guys are seeing the same thing.
Absolutely. And it's just so obvious, right? 92% to 98%. At this point, it's very obvious that the easier you make it for someone to do business with you, the better it is. And the better it is for the consumer, the better it is for the business. And I also want to double click on this idea of like selling versus shopping. Like, a contractor might not be okay selling a system on their website, taking a credit card and, going through that with their customer, but letting the customer shop is a different category. So you have to or a different concept. So you have to let the consumer go as far as you're willing to let them go in exchange for their information and in exchange to build that relationship through the process, and then go out and do your thing like you normally would. So, and I would encourage that with, especially if you're trying to capture the more savvy, young, and I'll say it, lazy consumers who don't want to pick up the phone. I mean, I can think of, without sharing too many details, I've made some pretty major like decisions financially without talking to people, and just through text and email, and feeling comfortable with it and transparency. And people do that all the time.
Is there any disadvantage to putting these prices? Obviously, we talked a lot about the advantages and how the customers want it, but is there any disadvantages to an HVC contractor to do this? Now, it's something maybe we'll have to manage, and we'll decide if it's worth it or not, but any disadvantages?
I hope you're free at 1:30 today. We're doing a debate, online, live debate on this exact concept with some folks. And we'll have some people sharing the pros and cons. I would say the disadvantage is I don't want to say perceived close rate, but your close rate could go down because you're quoting more jobs, right? You're just going to quote more jobs, and you're going to encounter people who are much earlier in the buying process. So that can be frustrating. So the signal that could tell you is, oh man, these online shoppers, they're just kicking the tires, right? And in our world, like, kicking the tires is a derogatory term, because you sent a truck out there, you sent an employee, you did all this, and all they did was want to kick the tires. Well, kicking the tires is a critical component to the selling process,
Sure.
right? We all kick the tires on major purchases until it's time to actually pull the trigger. So I would say the drawback initially could be, it's not even a drawback. It's something we have to kind of recalibrate with our customers is, hey, right now you're running a fixed number of quotes per week, and you've got a close rate on those quotes, and you're very comfortable with that. You're going to quote more jobs, right? Some of these customers aren't going to be ready. So you have to open your mind to this idea of online shopping. Other potential drawbacks, I'm biased, of course, because I'm heavily a proponent of this. I can't see any drawbacks of making it easier for your customer to do business with you, capturing more customers, and creating a better experience for customers. I imagine if you were to ask any retailer, Lowe's, Home Depot, whatever, hey, what are the drawbacks of having an online store? And they would look at you like I'm looking, like, I don't know. What can the drawbacks be? More business? I guess more business means more employees, and more employees is more headaches. But it's
some good problems to have.
So that's why I'm really excited about the conversation we're having today. And I know this will air at a different time, but I want to hear some of those blind spots I might have. I can't think of any reason why you wouldn't want to let your customers shop on your website.
If people want to kind of learn more, or maybe you help them through the process, that's contractorcommerce.com, I believe.
Yeah, contractorcommerce.com. Click on Talk to Sales or watch the demo on demand. If you want to learn about how contractors are using this, go to Demo on Demand. You'll see it there. It's a 10-minute video that you can skip through. You'll read our testimonials. We're now working with thousands of contractors to help them manage this online shopping, shift in the industry, and it's been overwhelmingly positive. So it's an exciting time to be a contractor.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, Paul.